Welcome, everyone, to our spring conferences. My name is Sabina Bollinger. I have taught in Madison for 25 years. We are a 1A school. I have a cart at the elementary, which is a sixth through kindergarten through sixth grade building, and then I also teach and have a room at our junior high and high school building, which is seventh through 12th grade. Today, I want to talk to you about a uh, art awareness discussion that I've used this year. I started using it every Friday this year for my junior high and high school, and I've used it a couple times at the elementary, and I found that it has really worked to get the kids involved with just a discussion about art, and not only art, but artists and what art is and how to go about recognizing it. And I was going to explain it to you guys. Let me get this set up. Okay, so I call it This or That, and it's set up just like our like the social media this or that you see all the time, where you have something and you get to pick which one you like, this or that, and it's just kind of a vote on and see which one wins type of thing. And I started it this at the very beginning of the class this year, and I wanted to have a different way to introduce art in a conversational setting. So, and as we've done it, it's kind of progressed throughout our projects. I've found stuff in art news, and I've just kind of pulled stuff in as I found it, just in everyday stuff. I found it through something happening, or it doesn't always have to be like an artwork. It's just kind of progressed as the years progressed. And how it works is I take two artworks and I just find them online, and I screenshot them together so they're side by side, and I put them on my Apple TV. So when the kids walk into class every Friday, they have these two works that they can see on the TV, and on a board inside the room, I have this or that marked, and they just go up and choose right away. They look at it and they choose which one they like, which is what they're choosing. Are they choosing the this or the that? And they mark it. And just like, the social media ones, I keep a running tally. So as the day goes on, each class can kind of see which one's winning, kind of the percentage as it goes. And I, as they vote, when everybody's done, I just kind of say, hey, speak to me. What do you like? Who likes what? And it's pretty open for discussion. I don't prohibit it to like only talking about art. It's pretty much open to any reason why you picked it. And I just let the students talk. Usually I don't have any problems with anybody starting, and then as once goes, most I'm like, okay, who are the that's? What'd you like it for? I liked it for the color. It reminded me of vacation or something. And then we move to the this is what were your reasonings. And it has worked pretty good because it's not confined to a critique type of setting. It's just an open discussion. So once all the students have, anybody who wants to has talked, and usually I get uh, all but a few kids who will be open to speak about why they chose the one they chose. Once they've done that, then I will give a more detailed review of each of the artworks. I usually go into who the artist is, um, where I picked it out. And this is where I found that I've really thought some interest has kind of changed and it's become really cool, is that um, as I've found the artworks, it's been like non traditional places. Like I'll be do an assignment and I want to do something about color. So I'll have one work that I really like, and then it'll just happen that I'll be reading an article or somebody will post something on Facebook about an artist that they found, um, an article about something, and it's not something I've ever heard of before, but it works with what we're talking about. So then I'll throw it in, and when I talk to the kids, I was like, oh, well, I picked this one because it works with what we're doing here. But then this one I found the other day online. I didn't know much about it, but I thought it really worked with this other one. And so I looked it up and I found this information. I thought it was really cool. So by showing them ways to see art in the news, see art from a friend who showed you this, see art from a post of somebody seeing something online, they can find a way to um, find art differently. So once I've put the pieces, I've told them a little bit about it, then I usually try to find a supplemental piece of information on at least one of them. And it's usually like a art video, a 5 to 10 minute video that just gives them a little bit more. So it's just not me talking all the time. And a lot of times I do this last so that while they're doing that, I can hand out paperwork, I can go check something else, and it's just kind of a move into the next thing. And CBS Sunday Morning has awesome videos about this type of stuff. So I usually go to those quite a bit. This whole discussion usually lasts 5 to 15 minutes, depending on how involved they get in the pictures, if it's something they really like, if it's something that I really had a good supplemental video that I found. So it's not something that takes up a lot of time. It could if you found a supplemental that was longer, or maybe one for each one or something. I did find that when I took this to the elementary, it worked really good for when I was finishing up a project. I had only a few kids left, but I wasn't able to start another one. So that I did the same discussion with the kids who were done while the other kids were finishing up, and then I just found longer videos so that during my 30-minute block of time, I was able to have the discussion, do a couple 10-minute videos, and those kids who were done and really otherwise would have been maybe free drawing or just doing something not for a grade and maybe not as effective, got a little of the supplemental information. This was the first one I did, and kind of what pulled me in and kind of got me thinking about how this would work. The first week of school in August just happened to be the week that Chuck Close passed away. And I thought, this is sad, but a way that I can introduce this artist to the kids. And it just happened that I was like reading on one of the Facebook groups that I had, and somebody had brought up that an artist named Peter Williams had also passed away. And I'd never heard of him before, but I did a little research, just some basic stuff, and realized that, he was a pretty cool artist and had some pretty amazing work. And so I thought it would be interesting to put these up as my two this or that people. And so I just walked through, said, hey, this is Chuck Close, this is the type of art he did, blah, blah, blah. And then I said, and this is Peter Williams. I've never heard of him before, but he also passed away. This is some information I was able to find on him. And then we compared. And the kids, since I hadn't had a lot of information about him, the kids really came up with, oh, it's interesting. These are the same colors. They use the same patterns. And so I learned about the artist at the same time that they did, or more so about them. And then I also pulled up a Chuck Close little CBS Sunday Morning, which is he does a letter to his younger self, and then I would show it. And this is kind of, I'll click on it real quick. So then I usually just go to, I don't know if this will go up. I usually just click on, oops, it won't. Cancel. So I'll usually click on that again, show them, and they go to watch that while I'm getting ready for something. Now, like I said, as the year progressed, I found that I could introduce other things, not so much artists or maybe people who weren't traditional artists. And so, again, somebody had mentioned Kansas Magazine had an article about an artist named Dwight Jr., who was a sculptor, but he's known for being Kansas or the first black astronaut. He's from Kansas. He was one of the first black students to be in a white school in Kansas. Just had an amazing life. It was so interesting to read about him. The artist was really long, or the article was really long. So with this one, after we did our discussion, I had the kids actually start working, and I just read the article to them while they were working. But just the information that they were gained, that very little of this article actually talked about him being a sculptor. It did say the whole time throughout his life he wanted to be an artist, but during that time frame, it wasn't something that was a very productive career. So he did all these other things that led back into the end that he became an artist, or he finished his life as an artist now. Then we started going into, themes of the environment. Is this art? With this one, I showed these two, Goldsworthy and Cleet Abram, and I had known Goldsworthy. We'd seen stuff about him. We did a couple projects during quarantine about him, but then I'd found this other artist. I can't remember his name. He's overseas, but he does these stickers on these street signs. And I had found a little article about him too. But then after we had watched this, we had gotten into the discussion about, when does art become vandalism? I had found an article about stone stacking in social media, and how the tourist industry is having problems with natural parks, having issues with people stacking stones and not returning them, and making a mess. And we really got into the discussion of, when does it stop becoming art? Or does it stop becoming art? Could this sign actually become a hazard? And, the kids had a really good discussion, because some of them's like, well, I don't think so. I do. I was thinking of the sign as, I couldn't read it, but then somebody else had said, well, maybe you would be too busy looking at it and you would cause an accident. So it did start a really good discussion that maybe didn't have so much to do with art, but started from art. And then this was the last, this one I started when I came back from the semester, and it was again started from when T-Bold had passed away. We were doing an Esther project. I thought they'd go together, and I was just looking, they would work together because both of them worked with what I was doing. But then as we started discussing, it was interesting because the kids really came up with the similarities. I'm learning more about it because of the discussions we're having with the kids. I had a student say, as we talked about it, she's like, and I had brought up, they're similar because Esther's painting is real detailed on the top and bottom, and as they merge, they become very basic, or it goes from detailed to basic. And I said that the pies, they look the same, but they're a little bit different in the details, just like the fish and the geese. They look the same, but they're a little different. And one of my girls had said, until you said that, I didn't even realize that the pies were a different pie. I just see that way. When I see differently. And so it was weird. It was just different to talk about how people see stuff differently. And so we're learning together about how people see things, how things compare. It's just, and, learning about artists, learning about when people pass away. And just, I've really enjoyed the learning process of this very easy discussion. And it seems the more I look for an artwork, what am I doing? Oh, I can't. It just seems it comes easier and easier for me to find stuff to compare weekly. This was one that I just did recently, and I had, again, somebody had posted about this artist who is a textile designer, and she was an older lady in the 50s. She did textile designs, which, I just think of this because, I made a lot of masks last year with patterns and the textures and materials. And right now we're going through our fourth year with KISA, and we're talking about career pathways and different careers and introducing the kids to these things. And it's really hard because we don't let anybody into our building. So just being able to introduce them to maybe a different art career that is not traditional. You think of art, you think of teaching, being an artist, but do you think about how material is made and the different patterns? And so we talked a little bit about this artist, and who she Calder was one person that they had mentioned that she took inspiration from. So I put them together, and then we discussed a little bit about textile design. And she even, back when she was alive in her heyday, she had started with one of her department stores. They did a dish set from her set, just kind of like the Pioneer Woman. So she started something that now you think of as just, every day. She began that type of thing, which is amazing to think that she's a pioneer of something that you think of as every day now. These are just I'm just going to kind of talk these through real quick. These are just some of the other ones that we did. I talked about, author and illustrator, Diekman and Silverstein. And then I had one kid, there was a week when I had somebody who was finished, so I had them pick one. And of course, they picked Bob Ross. So I was like, okay, I got to find somebody for Bob Ross. And so I picked Jim Carrey because he's actually a pretty good artist, and he has a video about his artwork. And I talked about how they're both in the entertainment industry, and you wouldn't think of them as being artists. I mean, Bob Ross you do, but Jim Carrey you don't. But their artwork, and they're like, oh, they have similar color, schemes. And so that one was kind of cool that they got to talk about them. This one was really cool, Bisa Butler and Tawny Chapman, because I do a project with Tawny Chapman, and then I just seen a video with this Bisa Butler, but she does quilt work, and we have some quilting guilds in our neighborhood. So I've had a couple girls who talked about quilting last year, so they were really interested in this one. And then this M&M and this mosaic. This is another one where we talked about, is it art? How does it qualify as art? What makes it an artwork? And then we actually went to the Van Gogh Alive exhibit, and so I did a Van Gogh one. And then I wanted to do a Banksy one because he had that staycation video that I thought was pretty cute. So we talked about Banksy, and I compared it to that grain mural because we have we're close to Wichita, so the kids had seen that, and we kind of talked about how they both have a purpose and what is the purpose and how was it displayed there. And so that is how I use my this or that. I think it's pretty, it works really well, and it works for anything. As long as you can find something that they can look at and say, I like this or I like that, and this is why I like it, then it becomes a discussion and they become more aware of art and what's around them. And I think that that is a great way to introduce them to something new, and it's worked really well for me. I hope you learned something from this, and I'm going to try to figure out how to send this slideshow. It has all the links and everything, and I assume I can send my email or something if anybody needs any of this information. I will talk to you later. Thanks.